Nowadays, even your tone-deaf uncle knows the difference between major and minor, but these keys we know and love today arise from the ancient church modes. But what is a mode, and what makes it different from a scale? I'm the classical nerd, and today we're talking about modes. Before the advent of the major and minor keys we use today, composers of pre-Baroque eras had at their disposal various modes. Since they were used primarily for liturgical music, which is what all serious art music was back then, they're sometimes referred to as the church modes. They live on in the present day of the white keys of the keyboard. These 7 notes form the diatonic scale. It's a mix of 5 whole steps and 2 half steps, with the half steps situated exactly a 5th part. You might think this would just give us the notes of C major, but you're only 1/7 right, because major is just one of the 7 modes available to us using this diatonic scale. If your central note is C, you get C major. Using the same scale and then starting and ending on 2 different notes, using different notes as your reference or your central note, is going to give you different sounds because these half steps are going to be in different places. In order, C to C is Ionian, D to D is Dorian, E to E is Phrygian, F to F is Lydian, G to G is Mixolydian, A to A is Aeolian, and B to B is Locrian. The last one is an asterisk, so we'll get to that one in just a moment. These were named after ancient Greek modes, despite the fact that the Greek modes sounded completely different. The modes can be roughly grouped into ones that sound similar to major, and the ones that sound similar to minor. In the major camp is Ionian, which is literally major, along with Lydian and Mixolydian. In the minor you have Aeolian, which is the natural minor scale, along with Dorian and Phrygian. Each has their own qualities. Lydian is brighter, Mixolydian is a little more bluesy, while Phrygian is evocative of Spanish music, and so on. You get the picture. These can be transposed up or down, starting in any of the 12 notes on the keyboard. As long as you retain this pattern of half and whole steps, you can start and end anywhere you wish. Now for the asterisk on Locrian. You may be wondering, what makes Locrian so unusual? Why are we singling it out? It's not considered major, it's not considered minor, it's its own thing. Locrian is actually more of a theoretical possibility than an actual practical mode. Back when these modes were being used instead of scales, Locrian was pretty much all but banned. I mean, back in the 16th century, the church thought it was literally the mode of the devil. 2 things work against Locrian's favor, and it goes back to where these half steps are placed. Locrian is the only mode without a perfect 5th between the central note and note 1/5 above. I mean, in D Dorian, you have D and you go up a 5th to A, and that's a perfect 5th. But in Locrian, if you're on B and you go up a 5th to F, that's not a 5th. A 5th would be to F sharp. F is slightly smaller. It's not a perfect 4th, it's in the middle, it's the tritone. And the presence of this interval instead of the 5th is really what made the 16th century church so afraid of the thing. But while that might have been taboo in good old 1500, what really works against Locrian's favor is the fact that the half step is situated at the very bottom of the scale. Combined with lack of perfect 5th, this makes the mode entirely unstable. I don't think this mode is entirely stable. Just listen to the Locrian mode for a second. It just sounds like it just wants to go up one more step. You can hear that pull, and that's the half step we're talking about. If we're a whole step, this relationship would be, not as profound. In fact, there is a version of the Locrian scale where there is a whole step between the first and second notes of the scale, and it doesn't sound really quite as bad. But it's not one of the church modes, so that's a video for another time. It's really almost impossible to construct something in true Locrian that doesn't sound like it wants to just go up another half step. My music theory professor once said that Locrian was invented by Guitar Player magazine. And while that's facetious, there is an element of truth to it. And the truth is that Locrian is theoretical, not practical. But a discussion of Locrian brings us to the idea of synthetic scales. Like I said, some people change Locrian so that the first interval you hear is not a half step, but a whole step to prevent this pull from happening. But this doesn't give us really a mode. It gives us a scale. Because you're changing the location of the half steps in the scale. They're no longer a 5th apart, so this is an entirely new scale from which you can derive 7 new modes. So yeah, this is the difference between scales and modes. The scales give us the notes out of which we construct modes. The modes simply are taking notes out of these scales and prioritizing them above the others. And this gives the music its individual flavor.